Part 1. The first time my phone rang after midnight, I ignored it. The second time I checked the screen, Ashley calling. It was 2:58 a.m. Ashley never called that late unless something was wrong. I picked up. Mason, she whispered between shaky breaths. Please answer. I'm here. I need you to send $20,000 right now. I sat up in bed. What happened? My son is in serious trouble. If I don't get the money before morning, they'll destroy his life. I looked toward the hallway. My 11-year-old son, Ethan, and my 8-year-old daughter, Qley, were both asleep. Their bedroom doors were half open, just the way they liked them. Ashley, I said quietly, slow down. I don't have time, she cried. Please just trust me. I'll explain later. I stood up and walked into the kitchen. Who needs the money? Ryan, her son. He was 23. We had never been close. He always acted polite around me but distant, like I was someone temporary in his mother's life. What happened to Ryan? He made one mistake. What mistake? She hesitated. It doesn't matter. It matters if you're asking me for $20,000. She started crying harder. If this isn't paid tonight, everything is over. I leaned against the counter. What exactly am I paying? Silence. Then, I can't tell you over the phone. That answer bothered me more than anything else. Ashley usually explained every little detail. Tonight, she wanted money first, questions later. I need facts, I said. You don't trust me. I trust information. You've helped people before. I have. Then help me. For what? She didn't answer. Instead, she switched directions. I've been there for you. That caught my attention. When Ethan broke his arm, who stayed at the hospital, you did. When Qley had the flu, who cooked for all of you, you did. When your business was struggling last year, who believed in you, you did. Her voice became sharper. So why can't you believe me now? Because belief isn't the same as proof. I didn't say that out loud. Instead, I asked one simple question. Have you called Ryan's father? Silence. Then, I knew you'd say that. Have you? No. Why not? Because he'll just judge him. He's still his father. He won't help. You don't know that. I do. I walked to the hallway again. Ethan had kicked his blanket onto the floor. I covered him without waking him. Across the hall, Qley was hugging the stuffed rabbit I'd bought her after the divorce. Seeing them always cleared my head. Everything became simple. Protect them first. Figure everything else out later. Ashley was still talking. If you loved me, you wouldn't make this so difficult. There it was. Not an explanation, not evidence. Guilt. Ashley. What? I'm not wiring $20,000 because someone tells me the world is ending. You don't understand. Then help me understand. I can't. Then my answer is no. She stopped crying, completely. The silence felt different now, cold. So that's it, she asked. Until I know what's going on. You'd really let Ryan lose everything. I don't know what he's losing. You'll regret this. I hope not. She laughed once. It wasn't happy. You think you're smarter than everyone. No, you always act so calm. Because panic solves nothing. You'll see. Then she hung up. I stared at the phone for another minute. Something felt wrong, not because she'd asked for money. People ask for help all the time. It was the way every answer avoided the actual problem. No names, no paperwork, no details. Only urgency, only guilt, only pressure. I finally went back to bed. Sleep never came. At 6:30, I made breakfast for the kids. Ethan was talking about baseball practice. Qley wanted pancakes shaped like stars. For 20 peaceful minutes, the call almost felt unreal. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered, Mr. Carter. Yes, this is Detective Harris with the Brookfield Police Department. Every muscle in my body tightened. I'm sorry to bother you this early, he continued, but we need to ask you a few questions regarding Ashley Monroe. I looked through the kitchen window. The kids were arguing over the last strawberry. What happened? I asked. There was a pause, Mr. Carter. Ashley specifically requested that we contact you. Why? Because she was arrested about 2 hours ago. The room suddenly felt very quiet. For what? We'd rather discuss that in person. I didn't answer immediately. The detective continued. Can you come down to the station this morning? I looked at Ethan, then Qley. Neither of them had any idea that the woman who had eaten dinner with us 3 nights earlier was sitting inside a holding cell. I'll be there, I said. As soon as I ended the call, another thought hit me. Ashley hadn't asked me for $20,000 because I was the only person she trusted. She had asked because she thought I was the easiest person to use. After dropping Ethan and Qley off at school, I drove straight to the police station. A detective met me in the lobby. "You must be Mason Carter." "Yes, I'm Detective Harris. Thanks for coming." He led me into a small interview room and closed the door behind us. "I know this isn't how you expected your morning to go." "No." He placed a thick folder on the table. "Before we begin, I need to ask a few questions." "Go ahead." "How long have you known Ashley?" "About 15 months. Do you live together?" "No." "Do you share any bank accounts or business?" "No." He nodded and opened the folder. Several photographs were spread across the table: luxury watches, diamond necklaces, gold bracelets, designer rings. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then one bracelet caught my attention. "I've seen this before." The detective looked at me. "Where?" "My jewelry shop." I picked up the photo. "I repaired the clasp a few months ago." "You're sure?" "I remember it. The owner said it belonged to her mother." The detective folded his hands. "We recovered it from Ashley's storage unit." I stared at him. "What?" "It was found with dozens of other valuable items." I looked through the rest of the photos. Every piece had an evidence tag. Every piece looked expensive. "These are all stolen." So far, we've connected them to several open theft cases. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Ashley had always acted interested in my work. She loved asking questions. "Who came into the shop today?" "What kind of jewelry was it?" "Was the customer happy?" I thought she simply enjoyed hearing about my day. Now those conversations felt different. The detective slid another paper toward me. "We also recovered these." It was a printout of text messages, names, dates, small notes. Then I saw one line that made my stomach drop. Mason said pickup is Friday. Another message: customer leaves town Saturday morning. Another: house should be empty after 10. I slowly looked up. "These are Ashley's." "Yes." I kept reading. Every message contained tiny pieces of information, nothing confidential, nothing illegal, just details from normal conversations. The kind of things couples talk about over dinner. I suddenly remembered how easily I talked about work, not customer records, just stories. The Wilsons finally picked up their anniversary ring. "Mrs. Bennett loved the necklace. I'm delivering a watch tomorrow." Ashley always listened carefully. She smiled, asked follow-up questions, made me feel like she cared about my day. Now I realized she had been collecting information. "I never gave her access to my business." "We know," the detective said, "but she had access to you." That sentence stayed with me because it was true. I had spent months telling her little pieces of my day, one conversation at a time. By themselves, they meant nothing. Together, they created a map. "When did this start?" I asked. "We believe around 10 months ago. Almost our entire relationship." I leaned back in my chair. "I feel sick." "That's a common reaction." I looked at him. "You think she planned all this?" "We think she knew exactly what she was doing." He closed the folder. "There's one more thing." "What?" "We're still looking for her son." "Ryan?" He nodded. "He disappeared before officers arrived. So he's running." "That's our current belief." I remembered Ashley's call from the night before. $20,000. No explanation, only pressure, only panic. Suddenly it all made sense. She wasn't trying to save Ryan. She was trying to buy him time, or help him disappear. The detective handed me his business card. "If Ashley calls you again, don't argue with her." "I won't. Just contact us immediately." "I understand." As I stood to leave, he stopped me. "Mr. Carter." I turned around. "You asked questions before sending the money." "Yes." "That probably saved you." I drove home in complete silence. The more I thought about the last year, the more memories started fitting together. The emergency loan for Ryan's tuition, the money for his medical bills, the broken truck, the overdue rent. There was always another crisis, always another reason I needed to help. Every problem came with the same message: if you cared, you'd say yes. For months, I believed I was supporting someone I loved. Now I wasn't sure if I'd ever been anything more than the next person they planned to use. The next 3 days felt like they lasted a month. The detectives searched Ashley's apartment, Ryan's old workplace, and 2 storage units connected to both of them. Ryan was still missing. Meanwhile, I had my own problems. The detective hadn't accused me of anything, but my name was now connected to an active investigation. That alone was dangerous. My reputation was my business. People didn't leave family heirlooms with someone they didn't trust. One rumor could destroy everything I'd spent 15 years building. The morning after my visit to the station, I called my store manager, Karen. "I need you to lock down everything." "What happened?" I'll explain when I get there. An hour later, we were sitting in my office. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she let out a slow breath. I never liked Ashley. I looked at her. You never told me. I couldn't prove anything. What bothered you? She watched people. What do you mean? Karen folded her arms. Most people look at jewelry. Ashley watched the customers. I frowned. She'd ask strange questions. Like what? Who owns the biggest house? Who's wealthy? Who travels? Who comes alone? I felt sick again. I remembered Ashley visiting the shop several times. She always smiled. She always complimented my work. I thought she was proud of me. Karen shook her head. I think she was studying everyone. That afternoon, I started calling clients myself. I wasn't waiting for rumors to reach them first. Every conversation began the same way. I wanted you to hear this directly from me. Some people sounded worried. Some were confused. Most appreciated the honesty. One elderly customer surprised me. She laughed softly. I knew you weren't involved. How? Because honest people usually call before they're forced to. That stayed with me, not because it made me feel better, because she was right. Trust wasn't built during easy moments. It was built when everything was falling apart. That evening, after work, I picked up Ethan and Qley. Neither of them knew what had happened. To them, Ashley had simply stopped coming over. At dinner, Qley finally asked, "Is Ashley mad at us?" I put my fork down. "No." "Then where is she?" I chose my words carefully. "She made some very bad decisions. Is she coming back?" "No." Qley nodded quietly. Children accepted the truth faster than adults sometimes. Ethan looked at me. "Are we okay?" That question hit harder than anything else. "Yeah, you promise." "I promise." He gave a small nod and went back to eating. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat alone in the living room. I kept replaying the phone call. $20,000. No explanation, no proof, just pressure. Then another memory surfaced. About 4 months earlier, Ashley had asked me something that seemed harmless at the time. If someone stole one expensive watch, I laughed. They'd probably get caught. What if they sold it somewhere else? Luxury items leave paper trails. She smiled. You always think people get caught. I think greed makes people careless. At the time, it sounded like one of those random late-night conversations. Now, it felt like she had been testing me, trying to see how much I knew, how much I suspected. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, I thought it was Ashley. Instead, it was Detective Harris. "We found Ryan." I stood up. "Where?" "A motel outside Millbrook." "Is he okay?" "Physically, yes." "And Ashley?" "She asked to see you." I stayed quiet. "You don't have to, I know. But I think you should hear what she has to say." The next afternoon, I returned to the police station. Ashley looked completely different. Her expensive clothes were gone. Her makeup had faded. Her confidence had disappeared. The moment she saw me, she picked up the phone behind the glass. "I knew you'd come." I almost didn't. Tears filled her eyes. "Mason, please help me." "How?" "Tell them I didn't know." "You expect me to lie?" I was trying to protect Ryan by stealing from people. It wasn't like that. "Then tell me what it was like." She looked down. For several seconds she said nothing. Then she whispered, "It started small." I waited. "We only wanted enough money to get ahead." Ryan had debts." "How much?" "More than I could ever pay." "So you stole?" She closed her eyes. "At first, I told myself we'd return everything." I almost laughed. "You don't return stolen jewelry after you sell it." "I know." "Then why keep going?" She looked at me with tears running down her face. "Because it became easier every time. For the first time since all of this began." She wasn't blaming anyone else, but I still wasn't hearing the truth, not the whole truth. I leaned closer to the glass. "One question." She looked up. "Why did you call me that night?" Ashley hesitated. The answer took several seconds. When it finally came, it changed everything I thought I knew about our relationship. "I never expected you to believe the story." I felt my chest tighten. "I only hoped you'd send the money before you started asking questions." For a few seconds, I just stared at her. "I only hoped you'd send the money before you started asking questions." Those words echoed in my head. "So, you knew the story was fake?" Ashley lowered her eyes. "I knew you'd never believe it if I explained everything." "You never planned to explain anything." She didn't answer. I let the silence sit between us. Then I asked the question that had been bothering me since the detective first showed me those messages. When did you decide to use me? Her face tightened. I didn't, really. It wasn't like that at first. Then what was it? She took a slow breath. I loved being with you. But I also knew your job gave me access to people with money. There it was, the truth, not the whole truth, but enough. So every dinner. She stayed quiet. Every question about my day. Nothing. Every conversation about my clients. Her eyes filled with tears. I never thought it would get this far. I stood up. You had over a year to stop. I know. You watched me build trust with people. I know. You let me believe we were building a future. She whispered, I'm sorry. For the first time, I believed she meant it, but sorry didn't erase anything. It didn't give people their stolen property back. It didn't repair my reputation, and it certainly didn't rebuild my trust. I placed the phone back on its hook. I can't help you. Mason. No. She stood as the officer opened the door behind her. Please. I walked away without looking back. The following weeks were exhausting. Insurance companies, police interviews, client meetings, lawyers. Every day brought another phone call. Another document, another statement. Thankfully, Detective Harris kept his word. After reviewing everything, they officially cleared me of any involvement. I wasn't a suspect. I was another victim. That news helped. But rebuilding trust still took time. Some customers delayed their appointments. Others asked questions I couldn't blame them for asking. One man looked me straight in the eye. Can I still trust you with my wife's ring? I answered honestly. You trusted me before Ashley entered my life. He nodded. And nothing about the way I do my work has changed. He smiled. That's all I needed to hear. Slowly, people came back. One customer recommended me to a friend, then another. Within a couple of months, business felt normal again, not because people forgot, because they saw how I handled the situation. At home, life became peaceful again. There were no emergency phone calls, no last-minute crises, no emotional arguments that somehow became my responsibility. Friday nights were movie nights again. Saturday mornings meant pancakes with Qley. Sunday afternoons belonged to Ethan's baseball games. One evening while cleaning the garage, Ethan looked over at me. Can I ask you something? Sure. Did Ashley lie to us? I stopped what I was doing. She lied to me. Were you mad? I was. What did you do? I walked away. He thought about that for a second. Is that what grown-ups are supposed to do? I smiled. When someone keeps hurting you? Yes. He nodded like it made perfect sense. Kids had a way of understanding things adults often complicated. A week later, Detective Harris called one last time. I thought you'd want an update. I'm listening. Ryan accepted a plea deal. And Ashley, she did too. What happens now? They'll both spend time in prison. I looked out the window toward my workshop. I guess that's the end of it. Almost. What do you mean? They both admitted something during questioning. What? The detective paused. You weren't chosen because you were wealthy. I frowned. Then why? Because they believed you were too kind to ever say no. After the call ended, I sat quietly for several minutes. That sentence hurt more than I expected, not because kindness was a weakness, but because I'd confused kindness with responsibility. I'd spent months believing someone else's emergencies automatically became mine. They didn't, and they never should have. That night, I slept better than I had in a very long time. For the first time since Ashley walked into my life, there was nothing left to fix. About 7 months later, I was leaving the courthouse after one final hearing when I heard someone call my name. Mason. I turned around. It was Ryan. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. He had lost weight. His expensive clothes were gone. The confidence he used to carry had disappeared. He walked toward me slowly and stopped a few feet away. I won't keep you long, he said. I didn't answer. I just wanted to say something. I waited. You were right. About what? Everything. He looked down at the courthouse steps. My mom always told me that people with money never earned it honestly. I stayed silent. She said taking from them wasn't really stealing. He laughed bitterly. I believed her because it made everything easier. He rubbed his hands together. You were different. How? You were the first person who ever told us no. I remembered that phone call. $20,000, 3 in the morning, one simple answer. Number. Ryan looked at me. I hated you for that. I know. But if you had sent the money, he stopped talking. You would have run. He nodded. And I probably would have spent the rest of my life running. For the first time, I saw someone who wasn't trying to manipulate me. Just a young man finally accepting responsibility. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he said. I wasn't planning to. I know, he gave a small nod. I just wanted you to know. None of this was your fault. After he walked away, I stood there for another minute before heading home. Those words stayed with me. None of this was your fault. For months, I'd blamed myself for trusting Ashley, for talking too much about work, for ignoring small warning signs, but trust wasn't a mistake. Giving trust to the wrong person was. There was an important difference. Life slowly returned to normal. The shop became busy again. Customers smiled when they walked through the door. New families trusted me with engagement rings. Older couples brought in watches and necklaces that had been passed down for generations. Every piece reminded me why I loved my work. I wasn't just fixing jewelry, I was protecting memories. At home, things felt lighter too. Ethan made the baseball team. Qley won her school's art competition. One Saturday afternoon, she ran into my workshop holding a drawing. Look, it showed the three of us standing in front of our house. No one else, just us. She pointed at the picture. We're smiling. We are. I like it better this way. I smiled. So do I. That evening, while closing the shop, I found myself thinking about everything that had happened. The late-night phone call, the lies, the police station, the investigation. For a long time, I thought the biggest lesson was to be more careful. I was wrong. The biggest lesson was much simpler. Love doesn't demand blind obedience. Real love welcomes questions. It doesn't punish boundaries. It doesn't turn guilt into a weapon. It doesn't ask you to risk everything while giving you nothing but panic in return. If someone truly cares about you, they won't make you prove it with your bank account. They won't make every emergency your responsibility. And they won't disappear the moment you finally say no. A few weeks later, my phone rang just after midnight. Unknown number. For a second, I looked at the screen. Then I smiled. I silenced the call and slipped the phone back into my pocket. If it was important, they could leave a message. If it wasn't, it could wait until morning. I locked the front door of the shop and stepped outside. The street was quiet. The cool night air felt different now. Peaceful, not because life had become perfect, but because I had finally learned something I should have understood years earlier. Helping people is a choice. Being used is not. Sometimes the strongest word a good person can say isn't yes. It's no. And that single word can save far more than money. It can save your future, your peace, your reputation. And the life you've spent years building.